Hello, hello. Welcome. I am going to be talking about why it's harmful to overstay in a role that doesn't serve you. So, if you don't know me, my name is Ibiemi, and I am a career coach. I've been doing these lives. Well, I say I've been doing these lives. I literally started last week on Thursdays just to share a little bit more about people that are looking to make career transitions. And plus, my marketing agency said it was good to do. Anywho, um, so why is it dangerous to overstay your welcome? This live is honestly going to be like 10, 15 minutes. If there are questions, I'll take them, but it's just really more so things that people can review and think of later. So when you are thinking of the current place that you're in. So you're in a current company, you're working hard, you're going after the things that you want in that company. But you've been there for a long time and it's bordering on overstaying your welcome. And you know that it's bordering of overstaying your welcome. Well, what can possibly go wrong? Right. I wanted to share some ideas around what this looks like. First of all, burnout. Burnout is the thing. I think obviously we've been talking about burnout for the last couple of years with the pandemic and 2020 and everything happening there. Burnout has been something we've been talking about. And for those of you that don't know what that is, it's basically overwork. Burnout has a lot of mental health symptoms. It can lead to anxiety, unfortunately. It just means that you're doing too much. And if you're overstaying your welcome, you may have taken on so many other people's responsibilities along the way. And now you're the go to person for that thing that really isn't your job. But in year two, you kind of like, raised your hand and said, yeah, I'll take that. And now it's year six and you're still doing it and they haven't hired somebody else for that position or that thing because it's just been absorbed into your role. These types of things can happen and it can create resentment. Another thing that can happen when you overstay your welcome is things like rust out, which is the opposite of burnout. I think we always talk about burnout, but we never talk about rust out, which is like the broke cousin of burnout. Essentially, rust out is the exact opposite. You're understimulated. So you're doing the bare minimum, you're bored, right? If it's Friday, you're doing the little like mouse clicky thing every few minutes or every few hours just to appear online, but really you're watching TV or you're painting your nails or you're doing whatever. That's rust out, right? And you must think, well, I'm getting a paycheck to just chill. Over time, rust out, it kind of creates this sense of like delusionment, right? You become quite like cynical. It can also lead to things like depression, which is not great, right? So burnout is you're doing too much, you're overexerting yourself, you're taking on too much, leads to anxiety. It's kind of like you're constantly battling a hurricane. Rust out is the exact opposite. You're not doing enough, you're doing the bare minimum, it's unfulfilling, it feels like there's no wind in your sails, right? And it can lead to depression. Um, Funny enough, you can actually have both in one job, which is kind of nuts. It's kind of like the two of those things coming together. You can have burnout and rust out in the same job, where you are feeling sort of like overwhelmed in certain situations, but underwhelmed in other situations, which means that you're just kind of ping ponging between anxiety and depression. And if anyone has ever had both of those symptoms or both of those diagnoses before, you know that it feels like extremely hard to get out of that trap. What can happen when you are in that trap? Bad decisions, right? I was reading a post today somewhere and it was like, if you find yourself in a hole, stop digging, right? But the truth of the matter is, most people will just keep digging themselves into that hole unknowingly, right? I love to watch, all these financial shows on YouTube. I say financial shows like they're fancy. They're really not. It's just people that have podcasts helping other people that are in like incredible debt. And they're just kind of going through their purchases. And it's like, why did you spend so much on, taquitos? Or why did you spend so much on this and that? And they're basically just tearing that person's financial life apart. And today's show, I was watching it, and this woman was talking about how she can't afford her rent and she can't afford to move because her credit is so bad from the last time she couldn't afford her rent. So it's like a cycle, right? It's this horrible cycle where you're stuck in a situation where you don't have the energy because you're burnt out to look for a new job, right? You also don't have the energy because you're resting out and you're going down the path of depression to find something else. You don't know what you want to do, but you know that you can't stay in the same position that you're in. Now it becomes a much larger problem. And now you need to like figure out something else to do while you're trying to navigate those two things happening to you. Funny enough, I see a lot of this in my practice. A lot of clients will come to me and the word they'll use is like stuck. And truthfully, they are stuck. They're in between a hard place and a rock, right? And they don't want to keep digging that hole, but because they are burnt out or rested out, it's almost inevitable, right? So they make bad decisions like quitting their job without a plan. Listen, as someone who has quit my job before, um, there was a plan, right? There was a plan. It was the first and only time I ever quit a job, and it was nerve wracking to do that, but there was a plan, right? But when you're burnt out or you're overwhelmed, you may not think of having a plan. And guess what? In a month, in 2 months, you're going to be back in that same place of now being worried about money, being worried about your finances, being worried about what you want to do because the problem hasn't gone away. You overstayed your welcome, right? Like I said, it's not a great place to be, and it makes you feel stuck and kind of unable to make good decisions for yourself. Um, in that moment, if you find yourself in this type of place, it's okay. It happens. It happens to all of us. It happens to the best of us, right? You've overstayed your welcome because you love your colleagues, or you just get comfortable with your paycheck, or you get comfortable with the work because you know how to do it in the back of your eyes. All those things happen all the time, right? If you find yourself here, reach out to someone, reach out to a coach, have like an initial conversation, talk to a lot of career coaches offer clarity calls, right? I offer like a 15-minute consultation. Spoiler alert, those meetings are never 15 minutes. I always kind of give some advice. I validate people's feelings in those meetings, and then we come up with a plan, right? It's not easy to find yourself in this place. You're not broken. There's nothing wrong with you. It just happens. It's just capitalism. Um, but you know deep down that you don't want to continue to stay in this position. Um, I think that's it for me. Funny enough, I don't know if I can even see the chat, but if people have questions, I'm happy to answer. I keep looking over here because that's where my screen is. But if there's questions, I'll wait a bit, I guess. But if there's no questions, maybe I'll go in after and then add comments and things like that to questions that people may have had. Thank you for joining me. Like I said, it was going to be 10, 15 minutes, nothing too dramatic. Thank you for joining me today, and I'll see you next Thursday with a new topic. Have a good one. Bye-bye.